Hello and welcome to the Hoof GP YouTube channel. On this channel you can watch videos where I take cows that are extremely lame and in a lot of pain right the way through to being perfectly healthy again and living a fantastic life. I'll give you instructional videos and you can follow my daily life as a hoof trimmer working in southwest Scotland, the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs. In this video we're going to take a look at how I actually trim the cow's feet in real slow motion. I'll slow it down 1,000 times so that we can see what's happening with the disc and the knife as we actually trim through those cow's feet. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching the rest of the video, smash the subscribe button, and if you like the video, click that little thumbs up button for me. Cheers guys, enjoy the rest of the video. So here we have a cow that's in for a routine trim. She's not lame, but that outer claw is much larger, or it has more weight bearing on it than the inner claw. So we're going to do the 5-step Dutch method in the background. That's what we're doing right now. That is when we correct the toe length, we reduce the height of whichever claw it is that is too big so that it replicates the inner claw. Then we model it out. That's the kind of dishing motion we're doing in between the claws. Then we're going to remove any loose horn and fissures, so cracks and little bits of raggedy horn, and we'll deal with any problems at all. Then after we've done this trim, I'm going to do the exact same trim in slow motion. Well, I'm not really going to do the same trim, I'm just going to slow it down to explain exactly what the knife's doing and what the grinder's doing and how you guys can do it at home. Right, so that's me finished the Dutch method trim on this claw, and now we're going to replay the whole trim in extreme slow motion. This is slowed down about 1,000 times. So the very first thing you're going to see is I'm going to swoop right across to the inside of that outer claw, and I'm bringing it into that side, and I'm going to sweep across in a motion from one side to the other. And as I look at it, it's from right to left. If you guys look and it's left to right. So I'm going to sweep from right to left, and you can see the blade of the disc is actually at a slight angle, probably at about 10 degrees. Now that's because we want to actually just cut on that very edge of the disc, the flat part of the disc, but the edge of the flat part of the disc. So if it was a compass, you would say at the westerly point. If it was a clock, you would say at 3 o'clock. So we're trimming from one side to the other, taking slithers off so that we can see it the whole time. Oh, you just saw a stone spark out there. The sparks are really vibrant when you hit a stone with these discs because they're made of titanium. So sometimes they're blue or yellow or even white. So we just work our way up from the toe all the way up to the heel, then we see if we've taken enough off. Obviously it's better to take too little the first time rather than too much. You can't glue it back on. Well, you could, but it would take off a long time. It's cool watching this in slow motion for me because obviously it only takes a couple of seconds on each trim normally, and I don't really get to see how these chips fly away. It's quite cool how they're twisting, isn't it? So I've done one pass from the toe all the way up to the heel. Now I'm looking at that thinking, have I taken enough off? Is it level? Does it need more off? Well, actually it needs more off the middle, so we're going to come back into that middle zone and sweep across again. Now if you were to use that disc flat, rather than at the angle I've got that grinder tilted at, what would happen is the bottom edge, so the back edge of the disc, you would cut the horn, that disc would travel all the way around and it would catch the bottom end of the horn, and that is when you get the grinder biting, as a lot of people say. The grinder's not actually biting. Well, it is, but it's you that's causing it to do it. It's not the disc. Now I'm getting closer to where I want to be with that outer claw. I'm just fixing the stability of the inner claw by giving it a flat surface on that toe point because it wasn't flat to begin with, and it's slightly long as well, so I need to reduce the height so that it's about 75 millimeters along the dorsal wall, which is that front wall that you can't see from this angle. So you take it from where the hair starts to grow, they call it the hairline or the coronet, and you measure from that hairline all the way down the front edge of the toe, and that should be about 75 millimeters. So I'm making sure that outer claw is level with the inner claw right now, and I'm being very careful about it. As you can see, this is the third time I've come up. Obviously in slow motion this looks like it's taken a long time, but in reality it only took about 10 seconds. Now a lot of you guys will be watching this and you can see that big black bit on the outer claw and I haven't touched it. Well, that's because that's not this step in the process. That comes further down the line when we're dealing with the problems. Right now, weight bearing is the primary concern. So we're trying to make sure there's 50% on that inside claw and 50% of our weight on the outside claw. And now it's time to trim the toes. Now this bit is quite interesting, and watching in slow motion I never really thought about it before. So there's 2 rows of cutters on these discs. So the outside of that disc is traveling much faster than the inside of the disc, and that's why I use the inner row of cutters, because I really want to take this slow and precise. And on my disc the inner cutters don't actually get changed, so they're a lot blunter, so I'm being much less severe, and I want to see how that foot reacts to my grinder. Every foot's different, and you can actually see in the pastern, which is the ankle, you can see sometimes that it'll flex and contort as the disc is pulling on the horn. If that was an extremely loose horn, then it would be all over the place and be really causing her some discomfort. Plus the disc could actually bite in and it could cause her some damage. So that's why I use the inner cutters, because it's less severe and it's much more accurate to do it that way. Now that I've trimmed the end of the toe to the correct length, I can actually see that there's more than 5mm depth at the end of the toe. So I'm reducing the height of that there to make sure that it is between 5 and 7mm thick. To me, it's such a satisfying thing watching this back in slow motion, seeing how the chips come off the horn and they fly away in a rotary motion towards the ground. Normally I'm just concentrating on the horn, obviously I don't watch where the chips are going. By the way, you guys on the GoFundMe page, the crowdfunding thing, are absolutely crazy, mental good. It's incredible. Every night I've been checking it, obviously, and it's going up, and there's like 150 people have donated now, and you're at over £4,000, which is totally and utterly bizarre and crazy, but I love you guys for it, and I really, really must thank you. And don't worry, I will be thanking you properly when I reach 100,000 subscribers. Now I'm going to move to the inside of the claw. Now I normally tell you don't routinely trim that inner edge of the claw, because if you do and you thin it out too much, you'll make her really, really ill. In this case there's a little ridge, and if you look closely, I only remove around 1mm of material. So it's tiny amount, but it should help to stop that part of the sole splitting up the inside or the axial wall. Now that I've done that trim, I'm going to move on to the modelling part of the trim. That's when we remove the inner portion of the horn to alleviate stress or pain or overweight bearing from the pedal bone by dishing out the surface. Now you can see I've got the grinder at a real angle. It's not far off 45 degrees, it's not quite, but it is almost 45 degrees. And I'm actually using the edge chamfer, or the 45 degrees chamfer, on the edge of the disc to cut away this modelling that I'm doing right now. So it's important to note that I'm not using the flat surface of the grinder and shoving it in really hard to the foot. I'm actually using the little point or the corner that sticks out of the blade to work away that horn. And I'll actually rotate my wrists through, you can see it happening right now, onto the next claw so that I get a nice smooth model out. Now all I'm doing here is try to remove the bulk of the material so that I can work away with the knife more accurately, but it gives me less work to do with the knife, so it's easier on me and faster for me, which is good for the cow obviously, because it means she's not in the crush quite as long as she could be if I didn't bother doing this step. Okay, so we're finished with the grinder. A lot of you guys ask why I do that with the grinder. It's purely for safety. I push the edge of the grinding disc into the horn so that it slows down rapidly, and when I hang it up, it's not turning anymore. Now this is the bit I really like in slow motion, the knife work. Now this is interesting because you're going to see exactly how thin the slithers or the cuts of horn I remove are. So in this first cut, I make a mistake. I don't cut her in a bad way, but look, I run out of blade, my knife gets stuck and it comes away in a chunk. Look, see how it didn't come away smoothly? That's because I never had enough of the blade to work with. So I ran out of blade, it came to a dead stop, and I had to remove the rest with brute force. Now in this next cut, I am able to use the blade properly, or how I should have done in the very first cut. So you'll see it enters the horn, peels through it, I cut across and up in the same motion. So if in effect the blade is sliding through the horn, it's not being pushed, it's actually sliding down and along the blade, and that's what's cutting it. See how you can see the blade through the actual horn? It's also important, and this goes for the same if you're in a running race or a cycling race or anything like that, you don't stop at the end of the cut. So in a running race, you don't stop at the finish line. You aim for a good couple of yards afterwards, don't you? And that's because you don't want to slow down going through the cut. If you slow down, the knife will get stuck. So if you're looking at the end point of the cut as where you're stopping, the knife will automatically slow down because you're thinking, I'm nearly finished the cut, and the knife will get stuck halfway through the cut. Aim for a couple of inches beyond it, like I'm doing, and the slither of horn will come away nice and easily, like that. So we model that outer or the lateral claw nice and wide. It's a really shallow model, but it's a lot wider than the inner claw. And now it's time to really tidy up and finish off the model on the inner claw. Now because this is a double-sided blade, I'm able to use the other side without having to change my knives, which speeds me up very slightly, and it makes the knife more versatile, which in my opinion is only a good thing. A lot of people don't agree with double-edged knives, but I love them. So when I'm modelling here, what I'm doing is I'm pushing that hook of the knife down into the cavity, then I'm sliding up, across and through the horn and trying to pull it away before the bottom of the toe. So that toe triangle that people talk about. When you look at the toe of an animal, so as you look at it in this view, the top of the foot, the top part of the foot in this view, you don't want to cut right into that toe triangle because that is a really sort of sacred or hallowed ground. If you cut a cow in that area, she's going to be lame no matter what you do, and that is not the aim of the game.
Had a truckload to drink. Now my brain's dead weight like that. Lost my keys, but don't give a shit. 'Cause tonight I can sleep where you sleep. From the can up the stairs, put the keys in the lock.
So now we move on to the stage of the process where we are making sure that there are no problems, and that black area that I talked about earlier when we were using the grinder that we ignored could be a problem. I don't think it is, but we need to make sure for certain that it's not. So how do we do that? We remove all of the loose horn. It's dark and you can see that it's flaking over the top of it, so we need to remove that part of the horn, which in turn will actually relieve some of the pressure or reduce the amount of weight that's on that area, and make sure that those cracks don't actually turn into a problem if they haven't already.
You make me feel so unreal.
Okay, so we finished the trim. This cow is going to be much more comfortable. She wasn't lame in the first place, and she's definitely not going to be lame afterwards. Now we've reduced the weight on the outer claw, and the whole point of foot trimming, or the whole point in the way foot trimming should be done in a routine way rather than just for solving problems all the time, is when you get a cow like this, the outer claw is bearing far much more weight than it should be. It's designed to be 50-50 weight bearing, but because our cows are housed inside, they're not wearing as much for the horn off as they should be, and also they have enlarged udders, so it kind of ruins their stance. So basically that promotes growth in the outer claw, which is why we get this overweight bearing or overburdening of the outer claw, and that causes problems. I really have enjoyed making this video. Maybe you guys have found it a bit boring, but I hope you haven't. It actually teaches me when I see the grinder in slow motion how it's working. It shows me the angle more clearly, so when I'm talking to people who are out on the farm with me, I can now actually say it's about 10 degrees of an angle that I put the blade at. Whereas before I was telling people it was about 40%, which definitely isn't true when I look at the video playback. Again, thanks for tuning in so much. I really am still enjoying making the videos, and I'll be doing another live session soon, so look out for that. And thanks again for watching, guys. Ciao for now!
Leave the clothes on the floor. Tonight it's me you want to hold it all. I am yours. Do what you want with me, but don't let me go. You make me feel so hungry. You make me feel so unreal.